Hello, hello, and welcome to another Authority Labs webinar. I hope you're really excited and pumped up because today we're going to be talking about SEO audits, and we could be here for days talking about SEO audits, especially with these three amazing experts. I have Casey Markee, founder, speaker, and renowned bacon enthusiast with us. Adam Riemer, who's a two-time Pinnacle award-winning digital strategist. Well done, Adam. And Sarah Decker, the director of SEO at Top Hat Rank. So to get to know a little bit more about our wonderful panelists, who they are, how they got into this industry, what they're really up to right now. Casey, if you don't mind taking it away, can you give us a little bit of background about who you are and how you got started?
Sure. Thanks, Ashley. First of all, happy National Boston Cream Pie Day. One of my favorite desserts since 1856. I always celebrate. It's like a national holiday in the Markee household. 2 layers of sponge cake. What else do you need? So as Ashley said, I've been in the SEO space since about 1999, around the info seek and the excite and dogpile days of the internet. I've been worked with everything from magnetic mattresses to breast enhancement pills to, again, pork suppliers all over the United States and the world. And I've been fortunate to kind of carve out a niche with food, lifestyle, and do-it-yourself bloggers over the last 5 or 6 years. So I really enjoy site auditing. It's never boring. It's amazing what you see on a daily basis, and I'm excited to be here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Casey. And Adam?
Hey, so my name's Adam Riemer, and to carry on with Casey's Boston Cream Pie, it was founded at the Omni Hotel in Boston, and that same hotel is actually where JFK proposed to Jackie O and where John Wilkes Booth practiced jumping out the window for when he went to assassinate Lincoln. Before he came to DC, he used, so that hotel just has a ton of history. And to find the room where they actually presented the Boston Cream Pie, you can still sit there and eat the original recipe. It's up the staircase and to the left. And the drinks are fantastic.
So much knowledge already.
Thanks, I got started in probably the mid to late 90s DJing at raves, and people were asking, well, why is this little kid spinning records and where does he go to next? So I ended up putting up angel file websites and started seeing traffic coming in, so I wanted to figure out how more would come in from Lycos, and I found a forum called Cosmos Factory for Rocky Horror Picture Show, which actually had a subforum for webmasters. And from there, I eventually found A Best Web and Webmaster World, and kind of one thing led to the next. And now I'm working with clients, everything from autism to adult novelties to I was working in the tobacco space. So I like the really competitive niches and everything from a 3-page site to my largest client. Site-wise has over 40 billion pages with a B. So all sizes.
Thanks for coming in today. And Sarah?
Well, continuing on the Boston cream pie front, because why not? I'm originally from Boston.
Yes.
So fantastic. Don't have the accent or anything. So that's good. You'll at least be able to understand me. I've been in SEO for probably about 8 or 9 years now. I have a background in marketing and web development. So I got a marketing degree from Emerson College, which is in Boston. And at that time, social media wasn't even really a thing. So we didn't even have any classes on social media. It was all just very traditional, how to do like media buys for television spots and radio spots and all that sort of stuff. But it was very much focused on getting to know and creating personas and target audiences. So that was at least very useful coming out of that. And then one of my first jobs out of college was working as an assistant at a web development and design company. And while I was there, just paying attention to what was going on, I was like, I think I can figure out how to code websites. So I took my Christmas vacation and, got a book on HTML and just figured that out. So did that for a little while, then moved out to Los Angeles, and I answered an ad on Craigslist for a junior web designer position with a little bit of SEO knowledge, which I knew the very, very, very basics, just put a keyword in a page title, put a keyword in the H1 tag, and then started working at Top Hat Rank, and I've been there ever since, and definitely a wealth of knowledge that I've learned over the past 8 or 9 years working for this company.
Awesome, cool. Thank you guys so much for all joining. Let's dive deep into the good stuff and start breaking apart site audits. So first question I have for you, Casey, I know you've done like a tremendous amount of sites and all across the board as far as industries, but what's the largest site that you've audited and how long did it take to go through?
That's a good question. Probably about 10 years ago, I had a forum, and the forum had some auto-generating pages. So I would probably say that a rough estimate was probably in the neighborhood of 750 million pages. And the problem was that 89% of the pages were completely useless. So we had to go through, run various crawlers against it, find out which pages we were going to keep, which pages we were going to get rid of. The problem was there was a lot of self-propagating scripts on it that was continuing to generate more pages all the time, and we didn't necessarily know where those were coming from. So it was a very interesting situation. It took about 2 weeks just to get a full, accurate crawl of what was going on. Another 2 weeks for us to determine where the scripts were coming from, another 2 weeks to remove the scripts, things like that. Needless to say, I don't like to audit larger sites anymore. That's why I'm really excited to stay in my small food, do-it-yourself, and lifestyle niche where I might occasionally see a site with 50,000 pages and be totally fine. All good. It's good to know that you can do that if you need to, but it's not great. I mean, that's why I lost my hair. Seriously. It's why I lost my hair. That's why my hair started to fall out, is because I was auditing these huge, big sites. Yeah, wasn't for me. Wasn't for me. So I'll leave it to Adam and Sarah and everyone else.
I mean, you're definitely working on a huge site. Did you say 40 billion pages was? Okay, so how long did that take?
Oh, I started with it 5 years ago. No, I actually, the SEO part, so it's interesting. One of the first things I looked at was should be indexed, what shouldn't be indexed. And I break it out into what am I crawling and looking for this time? What am I looking for this time? And so the very first time I may say, okay, let's start with 100,000 pages. Let's do a random sampling. Let's go 3 clicks deep from the homepage and disobey the robot's text to see how it actually follows. And then I start to say, okay, what are the big issues here? Then I go into 1 or 2 of the silos that I've created, and I do a bigger crawl with about 50,000 pages from there, and just start to try to figure out what's happening. But for sites over 1 million pages, what I also do is I look at their internal search. Every single one of these probably has something where it's looking for information you source. So like, I'm just going to make something up. If it was MSN or if it was Yahoo, which has a ton of articles and is a search engine, they more than likely have their internal search to build their own internal links and to find sources with the site, as well as what's populating for their writers as they find it. So I'm going to say, well, how is this working, and how can we create a better experience so we can start building the right signals and the right structure? And then once we fix the internal parts, that's when I move to the external and say, okay, is this rendering? How are we crawling? How are we getting the most important pages? Do we need to re-break the sitemaps up? Do they have an image sitemap and a video sitemap for this type of content? And then it just goes in, and then you diagnose the bigger issues, like anything from, are they loading all of their JavaScripts at once for an SPOF, or are they improper, or are they duplicating all of their content everywhere and in 10 places? Now we have to add the faceted search into the robot's text. Instead of just funneling it off into sections of 100,000 or 200,000 URLs.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So then there's a whole process for a large site like that. Sarah, if whether you're working on a large site and breaking it apart over time, or working on a smaller site, a smaller scale, is there a type of site that is your absolute favorite to audit that, you know, when it comes through the pipeline, you're like, oh yes, I'm so excited to audit this site? Or is it just kind of more of task flow?
At this point, I really like doing migration audits at this point. At first, I really hated them because I felt like there was a whole lot of pressure to really get it right. Because if you mess something up, it's going to be very, very obvious that you messed something up, and very obvious very quickly. So as I've gotten more comfortable doing those, I really have started to enjoy doing them a lot more. And the migration can be a website that's changing the design, or even moving to another domain or something like that. So those, I think those are probably the most that I really like to do. I also like doing e-commerce audits as well. Those usually suffer from a lack of organization on their website, and so that's usually something that can be fixed up pretty quickly and pretty easily and show quick results to the client just from fixing their internal structure. So that's one of my favorites to do.
What is everyone's least favorite site to audit? Is there any that comes through the pipeline and you're just like, oh no? I mean, Casey, is it the larger ones for you, or?
No, it's the vegan food blogs. No, I tell you, I get a lot of vegan food blogs. I think God's punishing me because I'm not a vegan. I would say that, and again, with all laughing aside, when we talk about the most popular food blogs in the world, honestly, vegan right up there. It's vegan, then maybe dessert, and then after that we have breaks down into gluten-free, paleo, and the like. But my wife got a huge kick out of it last year when I was running the final year in numbers, and I had at least good 46% of the sites were vegan. It was crazy how it broke down, and I'm like, man, I didn't like cucumbers before, and now I hate them. Or asparagus or the like. So I mean, with it's all in jest, but I mean, I like to look at, if I'm going to look at food all day, dessert bloggers, barbecue site. I audited a barbecue site the other day. Pretty nice. Gotta enjoy that considerably.
Understandable as a bacon enthusiast.
Yeah, but again, in my case, the worst sites for me to audit are anything that is on a closed system, something like a Squarespace, something like a Wix, something where I just don't have a lot of control over any of the back end. Anything that's a closed system. Remember the good old days, Adam, Cold Fusion? Wow, I don't miss Cold Fusion sites. I don't miss any of that nonsense. So give me a nice, simple WordPress site, and we're gonna be friends for life.
One of the big affiliate networks is still building Cold Fusion, just so you know. One of the big four.
Every time you build a site in Cold Fusion, a puppy dies. It's true. That's what I know. It's hard to say. It's tough.
You heard it here first. Adam, when you first started auditing websites, which was supposedly back in good old rave days,
that's when I started in SEO.
That was the days of Madonna. Yeah, the days of Madonna.
Madonna is still around. Watch your language, Mr. Casey. I have Google guys, and I'm not afraid to use them. They're actually going up all over this client site. They just don't know yet.
So when you first started auditing sites, what were some of the biggest mistakes that you made in the beginning, Adam? What were some quick learning mistakes?
Letting clients say that they're special and their situation's unique and making excuses. That turns into a nightmare client every single time. It's like, okay, no, it's not. Code does not change. Yes, everything you do is going to be situation specific. And just because this works here does not mean it works for you. And just because the big player in your niche has and gets away with this doesn't mean you're going to be able to. And so the biggest mistakes was listening to this. So what I learned was to instead listen to the client, listen to them say everything that you already know, but also listen for those small little things that are kind of tweaked inside, and learn how to ask the right question to get why the decision was made, so you know how to address it, so they're more open to accepting that something may be different. Especially, so I work a little bit in the blogging space with Casey. I work more in the affiliate side as opposed to the auditing bloggers. But a lot of times I come across the herd mentality with bloggers, where one person says something, doesn't share fact, and now it's fact, and it hits every one of the major Facebook groups and creates nightmares, and it leads to more audit work because they all burn their sites to the ground. But there's one right now where some of the blogging ad networks are saying install ads in every single paragraph, basically. I'm fairly certain Casey sees this in abundance. And some of the things I'm doing is saying, okay, so the first thing we're doing is removing all of this. And you're going to have a proper ad platform, like even Ad Sanity or Ad Rotate, can apply it and rotate it and give you analytics and tracking. And so it's trying to figure out, okay, I understand this is your money, but you can make more if you do this the right way. And learning how to ask the right question. So in short.
So that's interesting. So the mistake you're referring to isn't necessarily a mistake that you made or learned from the audit process, but it was actual client interaction. Sarah, are you kind of agreeing with that and what you've gone through of learning the client aspect of an audit can be just as much as the audit itself, or?
It's depending on the client. There are some clients that we have that are just like, yes, we will implement absolutely everything no matter how long it takes. And those are the best. Those are the ones we really like. And then there are some clients that want a detailed explanation about every single item that you are recommending. And that it comes back to a lack of trust. And a lot of times I feel like when that happens, it's like, why are you hiring us for our expertise when you're not trusting the things that we're recommending for you? And of course, we're going to go through and we're going to explain exactly what this means, because a lot of our clients are not fluent in SEO speak. So we really need to break it down and explain the vocabulary and the words that we're using and why we need to update these things. But it just gets a little overwhelming when it's literally every single thing that there's a little bit of pushback on. But I think for me, when I first started, my biggest mistake was that I was trusting tools too much. So like the crawlers going through and just taking what they were providing and using that as the majority of the audit, because tools only give you a piece of the picture. So they don't don't actually read the content. They don't actually look at how the website is structured. They're just going to spit out the errors that it gets from going through a checklist. But a lot of times there's more problems happening on a site that a tool is not going to pick up on. So you really need to get in there and manually go through the site as well. Not necessarily every single page, especially when you're dealing with pages that are, millions or thousands of, or websites that are thousands or millions of pages. But I do think that doing an audit, you need to visually manually review every type of page, whether it's a post or a service page or a category page, just to get a much better idea of what's really happening on the website.
That makes sense. So speaking of manually going in and stepping away from the tool, Casey, say you have a brand new audit project on your table. What's the first order of business? Do you go straight to a tool, or do you have a system in place of, all right, here's the first checks and balances that I do for every new audit?
So I have a pretty set onboarding process. I'm fortunate I'm booking many months ahead. So most people they'll contact me for an audit. I'll say, hey, I'm booking for May 2020. So for them to even get invoiced, they have to do various steps. They have to provide me my relevant accesses. They have to fill out an onboarding checklist. They have to make sure that they've set up an admin account in their WordPress site. They just various things. Once all that's done, I set up a folder for them and then invoice them for a deposit, get them in the queue, and then provide them a checklist of issues that they can work on while they're waiting in the queue. And that checklist might be very simple. In many cases with bloggers, it's, hey, we're going to dial back your ads here, or by the way, page speed is terrible. I'm going to go ahead and have you reach out and do these 3 things before we visit next year, and so on. So that's the onboarding process. And then as I approach the audit, I usually take the audits that I currently do usually take about 2 days total. And 1 day is completely running all the tools, pulling all the information together. The second day is going through all the data and putting the report together. Now, I might take an extra day sometimes just to get the issues down to what I want, because in many cases, I'm working with my target audiences, again, is food, lifestyle, and do-it-yourself bloggers, who I do not want to overwhelm. My audits have gone through a evolution over the last couple of years. They're still over 50 pages long, but I've tried to, again, dumb them down or try to make them as easy to digest as possible for the users. I have said this repeatedly. I know that many people know that it's associated with me. I tend to want to try to get bloggers to approach their SEO in a way that it's going to be open for toddlers and drunk adults. I tell them to write for toddlers and drunk adults. I tell them to think about putting their recipes together so that someone like Casey Markee, who can burn water, will be able to follow the steps correctly in the kitchen the first time and every time. And I approach the audit that way. I try to lay out everything as simply as I can. I have a Google Drive that I set up, and I load in anywhere from 18 to 30 attachments. And then once I deliver the audit, I immediately tell the blogger to order a bottle of wine, to get a bottle of wine or 2 bottles of wine, and just slowly spend the next couple of days going through everything. And then we'll spend about 2 hours on the phone going through findings, and I'll make several live changes to them on the call. And that's how we approach them. And then they have I provide everyone follow-up assistance.
Mhm.
Some people take advantage of it. They're like, here, Casey, here's my next 6 recipes, or here's my next 6 posts, and I grade them for them. Some people disappear. As you can imagine, group A does better. The ones who stay in touch, the ones who they're not overwhelmed. I did this, here's a couple posts, a couple months down the road, they'll check in. Oh my God, my traffic is up this much. What do I need to work on? Well, it looks like you dialed this in. Now we need to dial this and this in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
At that point, it's just implementing all the recommendations.
Yeah.
And Adam, as you're going through and auditing a new site, what are some of the most important metrics that you look at? What are some engaging points?
Every one of them's different. It's just going to depend on why they want to audit. Like, have they plateaued and they just can't figure out how to get themselves more traffic or expand their niche, or do they need a brand extension? Have they been penalized? And is it penalized really? Do they just run out of topics, so they have too much competing and they actually just got maybe devalued, so they're in the 4th and 5th pages and not out completely? So there really isn't anything that I start with. I just try to figure out why they're contacting me first, and then what their levels are and how I can address their issue to help resolve it. And even if it's in my skill set, sometimes it's not. So I find other people and I refer them to them, because not everyone can do every type of SEO or everything.
Very true.
That's so incredibly true. Sarah, when you're going through an audit and you see there's a big loss of traffic, which is probably one of the most common reasons that someone needs an audit or needs to pamper up their site a bit, what's the first order of business to figure out why that cause of traffic even happened?
So if there's a big drop in traffic, I'm usually going to start by assuming that it's one of 4 things, which is that either there was an algorithm update and something changed in the way that Google is evaluating the website, that there was a change in the type of result that Google is showing on the page. So now it might be showing a carousel of products at the top, videos at the top. People also ask results at the top, maps results at the top. So your organic result is going to get pushed down further in SERPs, and that's going to reduce the amount of traffic, even if it's nothing that's wrong with your website. That's something that's completely out of your control. Or it will be something where there was a technical problem that happened on the website that you might not be aware of, or something that was a technical issue that was pre-existing and now is causing problems for you. Or there could be a manual action that has been, the dirty word is penalties, but so manual action / penalty that it has been brought against your website, or someone else is just doing better than you and kicking your butt, and they got that #1 spot now, maybe even #1 and #2, and you're now #3. And once you get kicked out of those top 3 spots, you're definitely going to see a drop in your traffic. So I guess it's 5 instead of 4. But those are usually the things that I'll start looking into, those different items if I see a big drop in traffic, and trying to identify which one of those it is, and then what we can do to try to recover those positions if possible. Because sometimes, like I said, if Google changes the template, that's completely out of our control. So the best thing that we can do is try to get you to #1 in the organic listings, which unfortunately might be number 4 or 5 when someone's actually looking at the page. But we all bow down to Google. So
yeah, and that's a really good point. Is that one of the very first things we're looking at is going back to your explanation for technical issues. You would be surprised at how many bloggers come to me and we look and mistakenly somehow Google Analytics was removed from a select number of pages. I'm sure that Sarah and Adam have both seen this multiple times. It's great, makes us look fantastic. Hey, did you know that you've got, there's 21% of your pages here, all of a sudden the code's gone. Did you do an update? What happened? Did you turn off your plugin here? So, little things like that. Diagnosing traffic drops, where in many cases we're forensic detectives. When I have a blogger approach me asking for an audit, most of them are coming for the same reason. They're trying to qualify for an ad network. They're either close to the level of traffic to qualify, or they've been at a very static level of traffic for several years and they're trying to break through to the next level. And it's just a matter of going in and being a little bit of a forensic detective. Casey Markee in the case of the stagnant traffic. What can we do to get this site moving? And I break everything down into 3 areas. Think of it as a chair with 3 legs. Leg number 1 is the technical issues. What can we do on the site to get everything moving? Is the site technically sound? Is this page speed dialed in? Is there an internal linking issue? Have they been listening to their ad company and implementing terrible advice? What can we do to unwind some of this incredibly poor, incorrect, or completely just penalizing action or information they've been implementing on their site for so long? Dialing that in, that's leg number 1. Leg number 2 is the content, making sure that we've dialed in the content with an acceptable template. It's hard to talk to a blogger who's been blogging for a couple of years and they might have 900 posts, and I have to tell them, yeah, unfortunately, we're going to delete these 400. It's great that you spent the summer, volunteering in Argentina, or that, you've got these 25 posts involving your trip with your family to Disneyland, but we might no index that stuff. We'll keep the memories so you still have access to it, but we're not going to basically, these are like weeds in your content garden. We're going to make it easier for Google to find and surface the flowers of your better content. So that's leg number 2. And then leg number 3 of the chair might be offsite or external issues. Backlinks, the authority of the blogger, signals coming in externally. What can we do to increase their demonstrated expertise? What can we do to provide them a way to increase their backlink profile and, maybe bottom line, increase the authority of their site in general?
I came across a few of the things that Casey had just mentioned recently, just in a little different way. I've been seeing bloggers and affiliate sites start to pick up on Google Tag Manager, and they assume it's the same as Google Analytics when they have different purposes. So they'll apply their analytics through a tag and through there, so you have you have repetitions of it, or they forget to place the tag across all pages of their site, so they're missing views, they're missing counts, or they're not able to rerun the remarketing campaigns on any more off of their content to drive their sales. So that's one. And then another one I found recently, and there's no explanations for it, so I have to try and deep dive through the archives.org and the Wayback Machine for it, where I found one of the sites I'm currently working on. Their paginated series has self-referencing canonicals, but everything past page 5 has a no index as well, even though it self-references. And they have the rel prev and rel next. So it's like I'm trying to figure out why these decisions were made, who made them, so I can look back because nothing was annotated, so I don't have a history. And so this is kind of the forensic work. It's like, how do we go back and discover what someone who's no longer going to talk to that company wants to do? And it is a lot of detective work, but once you find that, you can get into their head, because we've all been around doing this for a long time. It becomes a lot easier to fix these things if the current team's broken of listening to the person that got them in the mess in the first place.
Yeah. Well, on the subject of all of these technical matters, let's talk about taxonomies and categories in WordPress. Sarah, how beneficial would you say they are to SEO?
I think your taxonomy and your categories are super beneficial, especially if you have a WordPress site, because your categories, to me, are essentially like the framework of your house. And then all of the content that you're writing is all the insulation and the sheeting and the roofing and all that stuff that puts on top of it. But if you don't have a solid framework that's very well structured and thought about ahead of time, the rest of the house is going to be a mess. So for creating a very organized, obvious structure is really important for Google, because it helps Google to just understand and parse out your content and understand the relationships between your different pieces of content. And I think that nowadays, it used to be that URLs were very important for structuring out the flow and siloing of your content. And now there are different ways to do that, like breadcrumbs are very often used when you're structuring out your content and creating those relationships. And as we're going forward, I feel like that's a better way to implement that and to organize your content, because it's also future-proofing your site, so that if you decide that you want to move a piece of content from, you know, one room of your house to another room of your house, all you have to do is just change your breadcrumbs. You don't have to change your URLs and do redirects or anything like that. So it's definitely a much better way to move forward. For tags, generally with the sites that I work on, we will usually no index the tag pages, just because they're either competing with the categories, there's some overlap in the focus of the topics, or there are just way too many tag pages and they're not really bringing any additional benefit to the website. So we'll no index to them, get them out of there, so that way we can better maximize your crawl budget. And when Google comes to the site, to really have Google focus on the content that you really want to rank well and is going to be a benefit to you, rather than wasting time going through all of these tag pages that are really not going to bring you in relevant traffic.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, you know, using Sarah's house metaphor, category pages are like windows into the house that is your blog. That's how I describe them to bloggers. We want to trick out those category pages. A lot of bloggers will get this advice from a course, or they'll visit with someone who's not in SEO, but they're a blogger who's had success. So clearly their success strategies will apply to every other blog, because that's how it works. But no, the main strategy there is that many people will put up lead pages, or they'll put up what they consider topical funnels, or they'll put in these, they call them pillar content, which is the most overused and least understood concept in the entire history of digital marketing, instead of first optimizing their category pages, which is what they're there for. We can optimize the crap out of category pages. We can put nice optimized above the fold content. We can put internal links. We can go ahead and put in a custom page style and description. We can link the crap out of them internally so that the category pages start to show, and we can optimize them with itemless schema, so they can start to show and populate in galleries and carousels, as it's called. We don't need to focus on adding lead pages. We don't need to focus on adding pillar content if we start initially focusing in on the categories. Now, as Sarah said, with the tags, I can count on one hand the amount of sites, big and small, where the tag pages ever generated traffic. If I audit a site and there's 1,000 tag pages, and in the last 90 days, they generated a grand total of 11 clicks, that's not a good use of your link crawl. That's not a good use of your authority flowing through your site. I'm going to no index all those tag pages, and I'm going to go one step further. It's imperative that when you no index something, you stop linking to it internally. Yep. Think of your site, you know, think of those no index pages as black holes. We link to it, we're sending that page rank right down into a funnel. We're never going to get it back. We just don't do that. So no indexing the tags is step one. In many pages, especially if you're using a Genesis theme or something along those lines, we want to go in and actually remove the tags from those now no index pages, so that instead on one page where, you know, I scroll down to the bottom and there's like 10 links to tags, those are still 10 links from the page going basically down a black hole. I'm going to remove those tag pages. I'm going to go into the site, into that blog, and I'm going to deselect all those tag pages. So now I've recovered that link equity, and it can flow back to other links on the page that we've left open and crawlable to Google. Simple things like that is where we get big improvements. So I'm sure there'll be someone on this call who will like magically start to publicize the fact that that's a new strategy. It's not. It's just something that those of us who are competent have been doing for a long time.
Yeah, speaking of old grandfathered strategies, link building. Adam, do you have any strategies that you do when you go through a site and you see that there's some link issues? Are there any strategies that you do for cleaning up bad links and growing new ones?
Yeah, I send dead bouquets of flowers to people that own the websites to give them. No. Actually, I sent black roses to a competitor once because I knew the marketing director there. I said, I'm working with your competitor, so I sent a bouquet of black roses just to be like, it was like, as a joke, and I think I had like a raven inside the bouquet. I was like, goodbye. It was kind of funny. I had another chance to hire me, and sure enough, we ever took the rankings. But basically, as far as cleaning up bad links, if there is an issue, then yeah, you've got to go and you've got to do the work and you've got to prove you started reaching out and doing this. You've got to update your disavow. But I try to offset it with better links, and I don't recommend going out and doing forums and doing blog comments, even though people still think that's good. I also tell everyone avoid going and doing roundups, being part of these groups, being part of the PBNs, private blog networks, and just avoiding anything that can be easily mapped. And instead, think about what doesn't exist in your niche. So I was talking to a vaping blogger, and they were like, well, we're having trouble standing out, and they're probably never going to implement this. I'm happy to share it now. Why don't you go out and develop an app or something for airports and for cruises that shows here's the nearest area you can go to have a vape, and here's the nearest bar that's open at the current time. Because you'll see everyone saying, oh my gosh, there was someone at 5 a.m. or I'm at the airport, I hate flying, it's 6 a.m., I just want a Bloody Mary or something to calm me down before I get on the plane. So why not create that? With food bloggers, I have the same exact thing. It's like, so what can you do that's unique? Because they're all writing about the same chocolate chip cookies. It's not going to change that much. So I'm like, okay, why don't we create this or this or this? Do something unique with it, and that's how you can attract more links to offset the bad. And if you show that, yeah, maybe you inherited a domain or someone tried to attack you, but all of a sudden you're doing things that are link worthy and you're earning them, that's what will actually pull it out, so you don't have to spend as much time going through and writing to all of these sites, can you please take this down? Okay, I did this on this date, this for my reconsideration request. And it makes life a lot easier. So think about how you can progress and do it smarter and get yourself proper exposure. 2 weeks ago at PubCon, I shared an example from an affiliate site where it's like they take something with a cult following. I mean, Casey hates bacon, I get that. But like other people love it, and people love wine, which was also brought up on this. So why not match the type of smoke that you smoke the bacon with? So if it's like a cherry wood or an apple wood or a mesquite, you take that with the bacon. If you're going to cover it in maple syrup, or you're going to do like a brown sugar melt over the bacon, so what's that going to match? And you can match it like from your Petite Sirah down to your Cabernet down to your Merlot. Casey is totally. I want to come to your house after this. That is in your head. But that's something that people would want to link to. You're taking two things that people feel very strong about, and you're giving them a resource and cool ways to morph and modify it. And that's something that people would want to talk about and then they want to link to. And so it's like, how can you do things like that? And there's millions of things you can do. It just takes the time to actually implement and go from, okay, well, I could do this. Okay, well, then go do it. Don't just think about it. And that's what people run into with their links, is they want to focus on the old and what they've been doing or what everyone else is doing. And when everyone else is doing it, that can also create a map that gets you in trouble and doesn't move the needle.
And just to interject really quickly here, one of the biggest deficiencies in, like you said, the food do-yourself lifestyle niche, you could throw a rock and you'll hit 10 how to start a blog resources. That still seems to be, for some reason, the main, inbound linking vehicle that bloggers are told to put on their sites. And I literally have to delete them or tell the blogger, hey, we're going to just get rid of this. We're going to no index, or we're going to delete it from your site. I can't remember the last time I audited a blog and I didn't see one of these, and they're all terrible. They're all like stuffed with affiliate links to Bluehost, which Bluehost is where, puppies go to die. It's just one of those things where it's just not a quality host. And yet they have an incredibly popular affiliate program. And so these bloggers are kind of seduced into signing up for, getting into Bluehost because it's cheap. And then they wonder why it's so hard to build traffic out of the gate. It's because their sites are suffering literally hundreds of micro outages every month, and they have no idea it's happening. The site's going down for seconds or minutes every day, and it's interfering with their ability to build traffic. See it all the time.
Yeah.
I'd also say, just to throw in there real quick, because another thing that I run into often is I'll have clients coming to me saying, someone approached me about doing a reciprocal link. So they link to us and we link to them. Is that going to be a good thing to do for our website? And the answer to that is no. I mean, depending, the vast majority of the time, the answer to that is going to be no. So you want to make sure that you're not inadvertently getting yourself involved into any sort of linking schemes that you might not be really aware of without doing your full research. And if someone wants to link to you, that's great. But if they're asking for something in return, as far as money or another link, then that's something that you probably want to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that really goes in with the spam and the penalty and all of that fun stuff. I've got time for one last question. We have some people coming in with Q&A already, so if you have questions for these experts, please go ahead and go into the question panel and start typing in your question, and then we'll move to Q&A. But I'm curious for all of you. We'll make the answer to this one brief, but I would love to hear how each of you, will start with you, Casey. At the end of your site audit, you have all of this data, you've diagnosed either what the issues are or what the improvements could be. There's all this data screaming over on that PDF. How do you translate that into a story, and how do you make that clear for either the client, the business, or even just as an SEO? How do you go through and read all this data and put on that forensics hat and say, this is what this means?
Yeah, and that's tough. And I tell you, it's taken years to refine the process. Unlike a lot of other auditors out there, there's not an automated template. I don't, for example, paste over a ton of stuff. I have literally a Word document, and it's a custom audit for everyone. And so I'll go in and I'll start, okay, we ran the crawl, here are the findings. Here are the biggest points right there at the beginning. Here are the 4 or 5 biggest systemic issues on your site that we're going to focus on, that's going to have the biggest immediate and long-term gain. Here's information on the WordPress install. Here's information on Google Search Console. Here's some analytics takeaway. And then once I've gotten that out of the way, then I go into the audit and I'll split it up into 3 areas. I'll split it up into technical and page speed. I'll split it up into content, and then I'll split it up into links and offsite factors. And I make it as simple and as succinct as I can, so that there's a lot of bite-sized takeaways. And then it's just a matter of the user going in and reading through this 50+ pages of information, and then I'll line up all of the takeaways with graphics, and then they'll go to the online Google Drive and they'll look at the graphic, hopefully at the same time you're reading this. I tell bloggers all the time that they should immediately print out the audit, take it to Kinko's and bind it, so they can flip through it, annotate it as they can, and then we go over everything on the call. And it's worked out pretty well for me. I've seen some of the other audits out there, and they're literally 100 pages and say absolutely nothing. I would like to believe that my audits say twice as much in half the pages whenever possible.
And Adam, do you have a similar storytelling process for the data that you put together, or how do you translate all of that?
So that's why I start out with the conversations and figuring out what their obstacles are, what they're open to, what they feel is their specialty, and what they actually have skill-wise in-house versus outsourced. And even though there's something that may be super vital, they're not going to be able to implement it. So I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to only deliver what I honestly think they can implement, then a couple things which might lead them into the other things. I'm going to say these are your high priority, but they may take longer. These are your instant wins. They're not going to move the needle, but they need done. And here's the middle ground that you want to work on. Once this is completed, come back to me. I probably have a little bit more for you if you still haven't figured it out on your own, but this is your starting point. Now move forward. And most of that's going to take at least 6 months to a year to implement, at least. So at that point, hopefully they've become open to more things and they've started to see some results. But my audits never include everything I find. It's what I honestly think they're going to be able to implement a little more, and it's broken out by high priority, low hanging fruit, and not going to move the needle that needs done.
That's a really smart tactic. Instead of overwhelming with all the information, here's realistically what needs to be done and what's within capacity.
That's why mine might be 25 pages or might be 100 pages. It's going to be, here's what you can handle. This is realistic audit. Not everything under the sun.
That makes sense. Sarah, do you have a similar process, or do you come at it from?
I think my process is probably a little different because we don't deliver a full like 50 or 25 page report. We deliver actionable tasks. So we're like, here's your task list. This is what you need to do on this page. This is what you need to do site-wide. This is, so we get very specific and granular. And so we're identifying the issues and saying where and how they need to be implemented. And so when I do an audit, I'll sometimes end up anywhere between 200 and 500 tasks. And also, like Adam, I prioritize all of those. So we go after the things that are absolutely vital for you to implement, that are like, if you have every single page on your website is a duplicate title. Like that's something that needs to be updated right away. And then we'll go through and do a second priority, which is after all of these top level issues have been addressed, then these are the things you should get to next. And then we'll do a third priority level where these are the things that are recommended, follow Google's guidelines, are good to do. You're probably not going to see a direct impact in your rankings or in your traffic from implementing these. So you should get to them when you can, as you can. And depending on really what package the client has signed up for, we have some clients that just do a one-time audit, and then we have some clients that are monthly recurring and are working with us month over month over month. And so the ones that are working month over month over month, we obviously have a lot more time to really dig into their website and get very, very, very granular. Things like we will write out what we recommend your page title to be, and that's obviously up to the client to approve. And in some cases, it has to go through several different legal teams to make sure that the correct the wording's okay, and all that sort of stuff, and it gets changed around. But we ultimately are trying to implement the best practices as much as possible, while also taking the limitations and constraint of what the client has with their website. So for example, we've had some clients that are like, we want to rank for this keyword, but you cannot use this keyword on the website. Which is a real challenge. So trying to get as specific as possible while still understanding what you can and cannot do within the constraints of the industry that they're in.
Awesome. Well, it's funny because everyone has like a unique way of translating that data over to a client or business, but all of your guys' ways are echoing the fact of importance and priority is definitely first, and bunching that into smaller groups first, and then taking on what else can be handled based on the client. So now we will move over to Q&A. We already have some questions coming in. Rachel was the first one, so we'll get to Rachel's question first. She's asking, what sort of reasons would you give for recommending deleting a bulk of posts? Is it just bad content that isn't ranking and has no possibility to rank, or how do you really understand when it's appropriate to delete? Casey, would you like to take this one away? Because I know you've got a good opinion on this.
Right. So with regards, and we're going to use the same analogy here, and I think I mentioned it previously. Think of your site as a content garden. Your best content are your flowers. They're regularly visited, they're regularly crawled. This is content that has clear positive metrics. We want to keep that stuff, but we also understand that every site has a limited amount of resources per Google. We have no idea what those resources are. We could call it crawl budget, but honestly, for most sites, they have plenty of crawl budget. Nevertheless, we have done testing, and we have found that if we make it easier for Google to find our best content, that content does better. We get increased repeat visits. We get increased satisfaction from Google on our quality content. And to do that, we need to go into our content garden, identify the weeds, and pull those weeds. In many cases, if it's content you know you're never going to get back to, you know that it hasn't had a click from Google in 90 days, maybe it's content expired giveaways, maybe it's content that you're looking at it now and you're like, wow, what was I thinking? I clearly had too many glasses of wine that day. Maybe we're just going to delete it, okay? We're just going to get it. We're going to pull those weeds, because what happens in a garden if you do not pull your weeds? They strangle the flowers. That's really what we're doing. That's why content auditing is so important. And this isn't even a debated point. Google, John Mueller and Gary Eash have both come on record and said that, you know, if you have the ability to remove content, it makes it easier for us to find your best content. This was debated for years, but they finally clarified it. They clarified it at PubCon. They clarified it last year at SMX West. These are things that are not in dispute. So we want to make our site lean and mean. Now, in many cases, the question is, am I going to delete or am I going to no index something? If you know that you have a piece of content that's killing it on social media, maybe it's doing great on Pinterest, but it's just generating no traffic at all from Google, we're going to no index that post. We're going to no index the post and nothing changes. You can still share it in your email. You can still link to it. It's still going to do great on social media, but algorithmically, it's not going to be counted against us by Google. So we're going to no index that. But if it's an expired giveaway, if it's a recipe you know you're never going to get back to, if it's an old post that has date-specific information and you know that you can't gut it and put out information, we're going to delete it. We're going to get it off our site and we're never going to look back.
Makes sense. Our next question from Saba, would you recommend stop using tags since they have no SEO value? Sarah, I believe you were touching on tags.
Sure.
So,
I think tags don't really have, it depends on how you set up your site. I mean, the general consensus here is that we tend to no index tags, but tags can still be useful to users depending on how you're using them. So if you want your users to, if you don't have your categories set up in a way that they are reflective of what your tags are, but you still think it would be useful to your users to be able to navigate through posts based on a grouping of tags that are not, don't have as many pieces of content as a category would, then you might want to consider continuing to use tags. But it really depends on what you want your user experience to be, because your user experience can in some ways be different from Google's experience, depending on what pieces of content you want Google to be indexing, as opposed to what pieces of content you want your users to still be able to index. Like in Casey's just example about no indexing a piece of content, but it'll still show on Pinterest, but it won't be indexed by Google anymore.
I kind of disagree with that one, sorry, but I just think you need to wipe them, mostly because people are using tags incorrectly no matter what. So even if you're no indexing your tags, you're still probably using tags, or you have old tags that are going to compete with your category, and you want that category to rank, whether it's an e-commerce site or a blog. And so now you're giving conflicting information, so then you can add no follow to it. And even though technically no follow, I guess, is ignored now, it's just a suggestion. At the same time, now you're saying these pages in your own website are not worthy of it. So tags just create problems. And then you'll find people using 5 variations of the same keyword as a tag. So now you've created even more conflicting information. You've created more siloed pages that appear like a category. So no indexing isn't doing it. And by deleting them, another way to look at it is grab Mouseflow or Hotjar or Crazy Egg even, and look to see, are people actually engaging with your tags? And if they are, which are the most important ones? And why not develop those as subcategories and drop them not into a mega menu, but put them in one? And now you have a usable way to do it, and you have more topics that you can write about and create good content that people actually want. So I recommend killing them off 100%.
And if the question is asked, you said Saba. If this is Saba from the Mediterranean dish, Saba, welcome to the call. You and I had an audit a while back. We no index those tags, so now would be a good chance for you to go and see what the effect has been. Like Adam has said, you have access to Hotjar. Go in and Hotjar and see if anyone has been, like, I believe that in your case, I don't think that you were linking to your tags, but you might still be including them in your posts. I don't think that your site search is set up in a way that you probably even need to worry about tags anymore. So you might want to experiment with just not putting tags in your most recent posts, see what we see. But as we mentioned earlier, that kind of stuff, they're black holes. Nothing's going to happen with those. And as we mentioned in your audit, you didn't have any discernible traffic to those pages anyway over a long period of time. So that's Google clearly communicating these are low quality results.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's definitely dependent upon the situation, and when in doubt, test and then go and check the data to see if the difference or not is safe. Well, unfortunately, we only have time for one last question, and I would love all 3 of you to answer this because I think everyone has a different system and flow. We have a tools question from Anita. What are the good tools to use to analyze a website? Casey, take it away. What tools do you love?
That's a good question, Anita. So I'm trying to think of a suite of tools that would be available to you free in many cases. You might have heard there's a tool called Zeno Link Sleuth. Zeno is a free tool. It allows you to run it against your site and check for various SEO metrics, including broken links. It's completely free. You just download it to your desktop and run it. It's been around forever. It works. But if you can afford to use tool suites, you want to use something like SEMrush, you want to use something like Moz. If you can afford to install a quality crawler like Screaming Frog, I always recommend Screaming Frog. It's fantastic. It's desktop based. You just download it, you run it against it, set up parameters. We can even use various crawlers on it or disguise your own IP or crawl JavaScript. There's various things that you can do, but you need a good crawler. So I would consider that first. Other tools might include something to check your site for shared or duplicate content, something like SiteLiner. SiteLiner.com. Copyscape is another great and free tool. You got to buy some credits for Copyscape, but it's always a fantastic way to see if your content has been reprinted elsewhere. Still a big concern for a lot of food, do-it-yourself, and lifestyle bloggers. We want to really be vigilant about policing our content, making sure that it's not being reprinted on other sites without our permission. Use the free tools from Google. Use PageSpeed Insights. Go ahead and use Web Page Test, GT Metrics to check your page speed. And of course, you have tools built into your site. You can use Yoast. I tend to recommend that you upgrade to Yoast Premium. And the reason I do is because if you upgrade to Yoast Premium, you activate what's called the orphan content filter, and you also activate increased internal linking tools. That way you can see, oh my gosh, look at all this content on my site that I'm not linking to. These are content islands. All I have to do is throw in some internal links to these posts, and voila, they start to rank a little bit more competitively. So things like that. So consider that.
Adam?
Sorry, Casey kind of just rambled off pretty much all the tools most of us are going to say, but there's still plenty of other ones out there. And like Screaming Frog does have a free version. Other crawlers that I personally like, well, SEMrush I use almost every day, and I'm totally going to say that wrong, but it's okay. I used to use OnCrawl. I can't use their user interface, so I got rid of it. But I love DeepCrawl, and SiteBulb has become one of my new go-tos, and SiteBulb is always upgrading their stuff. Other tools that I've used are Ahrefs. I finally able to pronounce that, and I probably got that wrong. And there's also, I mean, there's just a million different ones out there.
Right.
There's
who's going to work for your situation.
You guys have pretty much covered everything that I can think of as far as tools that I use. Because yes, it does completely depend on your situation and the site. I would say the only other thing to throw in there, which is not really a tool, but it's still important, is Google Search Console. Make sure that you're using that, because that's going to give you some good data as far as what pages Google is indexing, what pages they're crawling, and if you have any sort of issues or pages dropping out of index, that's going to be your first point of notification. And you'll be able to see that it updates every 3 days, I believe you get new. Oh no, recently it started actually showing next day data. So you definitely use that as well, which is more of a metric than really a tool, but still also very useful.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Sarah was saying there, you know, a lot of bloggers have trouble using Search Console. It's amazing how many times we'll do an audit and I'll ask them, are you in this regularly? I am, but I don't know what the data means. So go ahead, go to Google right now and type in Ahrefs. Ahrefs just released a tutorial on how to use Google Search Console for SEO. It's fantastic. It's a YouTube video. Type it in today, find it, watch it. It's going to help you considerably.
Yep. There's also Keyword Planner. No one mentioned that one. That's going to be a big one as you're writing your next content. Doesn't matter if you're a publisher, if you're a store, if you're a blogger. That's how you're going to figure out and answer the public as well is another good one to discover.
That's good too.
But be careful of that creepy guy on the homepage. I've had actual nightmares of him trying to kill me. So get ready. And Quora can be a great place to source Google Auto Suggest and YouTube suggestions. Those are great. Just depends on where you're going and what you're trying to do.
And what you're trying to fix. Awesome. Well, that wraps up the webinar for today. Thank you so much to all of our expert panelists for joining. You guys provided so much amazing information about auditing and what to expect as well. Thank you for everyone who joined us. If you'd like more information, definitely reach out to all of these amazing people on Twitter. They're very active and are sharing great things at all times on Twitter. In the meantime, if you have any questions or want to learn more about AuthorityLabs, you can go for a free trial at authoritylabs.com. And that's it from us. Thank you, everyone, for joining.